Could you just outline to us how you see your thesis, because it's going to be published in eJots in terms of the access to it, and people have just given about a 3 or 4 minute introduction through the video, so people get the experience of who the person is, and so it's just to introduce your thesis to that audience.
The thesis came about because I very passionately at the time wanted to know something about what I was doing in health visiting. There were sort of issues that I was facing that hadn't been addressed at all. They weren't even really topics of conversation at the time in health visiting. That's really what came to be later known as rights for children, but at the time that wasn't being questioned. And I searched to find a way of understanding this and found within health service or healthcare research there wasn't really a way for me to find out, because nobody had researched this before. Yeah? And I wanted to know, how do I do it? It's okay going, there were plenty of books to read about child abuse and things like that, but there were no real accounts of how a health visitor would go about working with families. And so the thesis really came to be about, first of all, the methodology. The research methodology is about a process of inquiry, where I learned, finally discovering living theory action research, I asking myself, how do I do this thing? You know, how can I do this thing? How do I understand what's going on here, and what do I do about it? And then how can I explain it? So that's the research process. And I came to call it alongsideness, the values that emerged out of the process alongsideness, because as a practitioner it wasn't just about researching, it was about actually working with the families, and I realised that what I was doing was in parallel with what the parents were doing. So while I was asking how can I improve my practice as a health visitor, I realised that it was in tandem with parents always asking, how can I be a better parent? That's just what you find. Everybody wants to know, how can I do this better? So my process is just the same as the parents' process of learning to be a parent, and also what they're doing with their children. So the children's process, how can I grow up and know stuff and do stuff? So those two things come together, and so that's the my process, the parents' process, and also the research. And towards the end, when you have to submit the name of the thesis, I went and just off the top of my head said it was an epistemology, not realising that I was going to have to say what I meant by that. And so that's why the Viva process was so good, because it did take me time to work out that alongsideness for me is also a way of creating and justifying knowledge. So it's pretty integrated really for me. It's about me, my life, and how I work and operate. It's about how I see how I operate and practice with the families and beyond, of course, in groups and beyond. And it's a way of understanding and creating knowledge. And I see it as all being alongside.